It is my privilege this evening to greet you all, my fellow citizens at home and abroad, on the 30th anniversary of our independence, and to convey to you my good wishes. It will be my honor, as the first servant of the people, to exert myself to the utmost for the service of our people and our country. I hope to return in some humble way the affection and regard I have enjoyed from all sections of society for 45 years of political life. 30 years have gone past since we became free. The events of the recent past have proved the maturity of thought and action of the millions of our toiling countrymen who have confirmed our belief in the democratic way of life. Today we can hold our heads high as the world's largest democracy. This by itself is not enough.
Radio Archives recording.
And if the democratic way of life is to last, we must look inwards and examine our thoughts and actions. The democratic way of life must result in rapport between the masses of our people, particularly those living in the rural areas, our political mentors, and the administration. Life for our long-suffering people, many of whom live well below the subsistence level, can have no hope unless it has substantial inbuilt economic and social substance. Only then can we mobilize our enormous human resources to actively participate in the task of nation building. We have in these last 30 years experienced success and failure, happiness and sorrow. We have to end poverty, ignorance and disease, and inequality of opportunity. The ambition of the greatest man of our times, Mahatma Gandhi, was to wipe every tear from every eye. Our work will not be complete unless this noble objective has been achieved. India lives in the villages, and these simple folk are our richest heritage. The 5-year plans for socio-economic development have no doubt yielded some result, but has their impact been substantial? Have the benefits of planned development percolated to the remote village and to the weaker sections of society? Until I assumed the office of President of India, I was a Kisan working in the fields in sun and rain. I know at first hand the difficulties which millions of our countrymen face, even in obtaining the basic necessities of life, like drinking water, facilities for education, medical and health services, and communications. The conditions of living of the millions of our countrymen who live in remote rural areas must be improved without delay. All national planning must put the interests of those living in the villages first. Every vested interest which seeks to undermine this objective must be made to yield. For, as Gandhiji said, India lives in the villages, and our strength as a nation depends upon the welfare of our rural population. There are still glaring inequalities in the standards of living of our people and of opportunities for a better life. We must urgently endeavor to narrow down, if not remove, such difficulties without subjecting any one section of society to particular hardship. We must not allow entrenched vested interests, however powerful and well organized they may be, to impede our efforts in this direction. Vulgar ostentation, unnecessary pomp and show, and conspicuous emphasis on affluence can only irritate those less fortunately placed in life. Such gradual accumulation of hatred poses a serious problem and will ultimately tear apart the fabric of our society and our faith in democratic institutions. We have to set a good example individually if we are to succeed collectively as a nation. I therefore resolve that the initiative in such matters must come from the top. I have decided that I will surrender every month rupees 7,000 of my salary as the President of India, and such portion of my salary as I shall receive will be subject to income tax as in the case of an ordinary citizen. I have also decided to move out of Rashtrapati Bhavan into a simpler house which will not be inconsistent or detract from the dignity of the high office of the President of India. I will also effect considerable reduction of expenditure at Rashtrapati Bhavan. I have asked the government to locate for me some such suitable place where I and my staff can be accommodated in reasonable comfort, but at considerably reduced expenditure to the exchequer. We have been trying to reduce inequalities among the various sections of our people. I am particularly concerned about the lack of uniformity in approach and principles, and the inadequate pace of progress in the implementation of land reforms and the enforcement of controls over the growth and activities of monopolistic tendencies in the non-agricultural sector. Such monopolistic growth of a few vested interests has assumed serious proportions over the years. Political corruption, demoralization of the public services, and a deterioration of standard in public life are directly related to black money and pressures which a few antisocial elements in our society can exert to disrupt national life. We are today worried about rising prices which affect even the basic necessities of life. The upward spiraling prices show little sign of abatement. A small section of our community who are better organized are managing to obtain illusionary reliefs from time to time. Such reliefs are unfortunately neutralized even as they are announced by the machinations of a very watchful and unscrupulous section of our society which preys on human misfortune. Here you must logically pause and consider the plight in these circumstances of those other unfortunate hundreds of millions of our citizens, the unorganized labor in the urban areas, agricultural labor, artisans, marginal farmers, and many others whose stated voices we do not hear because they are dispersed all over this vast country. Does the rise in price not affect them too? And what compensation can they hope to get to eke out even day-to-day existence? I am saying all this only to emphasize the urgency and importance of facing a relentless campaign against the high cost of living, the rise in prices of essential commodities, and the tendency of unscrupulous elements in our society to ruthlessly exploit our opportunity to feather their own nests. We need the assistance and cooperation of all sections of our society on a war footing if we are to win this battle, and win it we will. We can no longer take for granted the endurance and patience of our overburdened people. Their unendurable circumstances can only lead them to desperation. The verdict of history is clear on this point. Unimaginative, careless and unresponsive societies have in similar circumstances been swept away by the awesome tide of pent-up human suffering. Let's not by sheer thoughtlessness cast away our dearly won freedom. We have a great heritage of tolerance, compassion, and objectivity in thought and action. Let us preserve these noble traditions for all time to come. We must rationalize and reorient our vast administrative apparatus to serve our people. Economy in public expenditure is as important as the scrupulous supervision over administrative waste. A sizable portion of every rupee of our resources must reach quick, tangible benefits to our toiling millions in the rural areas. Our immediate planning priorities should be to all a crash program to register quick impact on the daily life of our rural people. Public grievances, particularly of the urchins and weaker sections of society, must be attended to with courtesy, sympathy, and a sense of urgency. Only thus can we prevent the volcano of discontent and frustration from blowing its top. The winds of
This
change
is
are
All
sweeping
India
over the
Radio
third
Archives
world,
recording.
and our country cannot but trim its sails accordingly. I appeal to all those in stations of power and authority in our public life to set the highest examples in moral rectitude, honesty, and integrity. The great Mahatma gave our youth, and I was one of them then, a sense of purpose, and was able with his many simple common sense constructive programs to channelize our talent, initiative, and energy into useful national activity. Our youth are a national asset beyond all price and the trustees of posterity. We have to care for them even as loving parents, encourage them, counsel them against losing hope, and associate them in increasing measure with the planning and implementation of programs for socio-economic development. It's the youth of today who will build the India of tomorrow and of the years to come. Our defense forces, in very difficult circumstances, stand watchful, ever ready to safeguard our country, our freedom, and our lives. Their sense of discipline, hard work, and dedication to duty and the country's honor must stimulate us into similar thought and action in whatever station of life we occupy. Today, the world is full of praise for our political sagacity and the maturity with which we conduct our national affairs. We must not let complacency and selfishness erode the morality of public life. Political bickering for power, regionalism, communalism, and casteism and other anti-national forces are poised to surreptitiously sap our strength as a nation. India has always been a land of great diversity in all walks of life and thought. Our unity in diversity singles us out of distinction in civilized society the world over. We must guard this precious heritage individually and severally. We have overcome many a formidable challenge to our national existence in the past by a single-minded dedication to the principles that our country and our people are one single entity and indivisible, no matter what storms may rage around us. Committed as we are to achieving social and economic progress, the eradication of inequality of opportunity for every citizen of this vast country, and the removal of all forms of social and economic injustice by peaceful methods, we must each one of us, irrespective of station, search our conscience
This is
before
All
God,
India Radio Archives
pledge to
recording.
conduct ourselves as true citizens of this great country and place the national interests above all else. Only thus can we obtain our full stature and make this country worthy of the freedom which the Mahatma obtained for us. Jai Hind.